Hi everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand. Welcome to another video. Earlier this week, I made a video about China trolling the United States with regards to the health of Americans. And obviously, this is in the context of what many people are calling the current global trade war. Well, I have to say this as somebody who's regularly online and watches videos that are being passed around. China has been on an absolute roll over the last couple of days in terms of putting out these videos that are making fun out of Americans wanting to bring manufacturing back to the country. And they are specifically criticizing the metabolic health and the size of Americans. Take a look at this latest video that became quite a sensation online over the last 48 hours. So I do have to say this, no matter what side of the fence you are on, these videos are pretty hilarious. And I want to not really touch upon the geopolitics. I don't want to talk about the economics, but I do want to focus on what China is rightly pointing at with regards to the health of the United States, because I really want Americans to see this as a wake-up call that the current status quo can't continue. In fact, it's not the status quo. Things are getting worse every single year with regards to the health of Americans, obesity going through the roof, other chronic diseases. And yes, people might say, well, China has no right to criticize. They are also failing on many metrics. I will come to that in a moment because on a health level, they are nowhere near as bad as the United States. And I personally have many issues myself with China and Chinese leadership. I've never actually been to China. I have visited Hong Kong before. That was a fantastic visit. And that happened after Hong Kong had gone back to China from the British. That was in the early 2000s. I would like to visit mainland China, though, someday and see it for myself, because I've heard many people who have visited have given quite impressive reviews. But nevertheless, China is not a democracy. And when I've seen Chinese leaders go on TV over the last few days and talk about how the current measures by the United States are really suppressing economic freedoms. Well, I'm sorry, a country which isn't a democracy has no right to talk about economic freedoms. I think China is very corrupt compared to many Western countries. We might think that we are corrupt in countries like the USA and UK. And fair enough, corruption exists in lots of different forms. But the truth is, and I speak as someone whose family is originally from India, my parents are from northern India, I visited India many times. Countries like India and China are on a whole different level when it comes to everyday corruption and needing to give bribes to get things done. I'm certainly glad we don't have that in the United States. I also have many issues with the way that the Chinese treat animals. So in many ways, I don't look at China as a role model country, but I will say this. I think that China poking fun out of this particular issue is completely fair game. And I want it to be a wake-up call, because I'm going to share with you some rather shocking statistics. If you want to know the difference between Chinese health and American health, let me share these statistics with you. And I have three with you in particular to share here. Firstly, the obesity rate. In the United States, obesity, I'm not talking about being overweight, I'm talking about being obese. In the United States, this is now over 50%. Think about that, over 50%. In China, it is around 6%. I've seen some estimates closer to 10%, but it's nowhere near as bad as the United States. Okay, number two, percentage of adults on a prescription medication, because we know that the United States medical industrial complex loves to dish out prescriptions like candy. All you need to do is turn on cable TV and see the ridiculous number of big pharma ads. Sometimes when I've been unfortunate enough to be in a place with cable TV because I don't have it at home, I have seen every single commercial be a big pharma ad. So needless to say, these prescriptions are everywhere. And it's quite weird because the more prescriptions that are given out, the more people seem to be getting sicker. So how many adults are on a prescription medicine? Well, in the United States, 65% of adults take at least one prescription medication, and nearly 25% take 5 or more. Think about that statistic. That is insane. in a country, let's be quite frank, the United States, where the life expectancy is decreasing, predominantly because of the metabolic health crisis. What is it in China? Well, in China, only 20% of adults use prescription drugs regularly. So there is an almost, well, more than threefold difference there in number of adults on prescription medications. Number three, and this is one of the saddest of all, children on psychiatric medications, because we know that the US medical industrial complex loves giving pills and injections to children, as many as possible. That's the mantra. And nowhere has this exploded more than in the field of mental health. It is a horrible situation. What happened to encouraging children to get outdoors, get enough vitamin D, mix with the community, play with friends? Many of us grew up in a time where we would be outdoors playing all day, not stuck indoors on smartphones. And the answer certainly isn't more prescription medicine. So let's look at these statistics. Almost 8%, 8%, so almost 1 in 10 children in the USA between 6 and 17 are on at least one prescription psychiatric drug for many conditions, including depression, ADHD, which is absolutely exploding. Don't even get me going on that. Antipsychotics, 1 in 10, almost 1 in 10. And in China, this is the kicker, under 1% of children are on psychiatric medications. They barely heard of conditions like ADHD and severe depression in children. That seems to be an American thing. Ironic, really, considering that America per head is much wealthier than the Chinese. So I would like you to think about that a lot. Almost 8 times higher prescription rate of psychiatric medications in American children compared to Chinese children. So while we're on the subject, I want to share with you this video of Chinese children being fed food in their school cafeteria. Take a look at this. Okay, so did you all see that? I'm sure Chinese children are not fed the absolute junk that American children are being fed. And of course, many things are different in terms of the typical Chinese upbringing. Dare I say, in fact, I know for sure, discipline is very different in schools, in high schools, compared to the United States. In Asia, children consider it a privilege to be in school, and they certainly don't misbehave like they do in the United States. So we have a massive cultural problem. But getting back to health, well-being, what can we do on a nutrition level? Well, start feeding our youngest citizens decent, real food instead of processed garbage full of sugar and other additives. That would be a good start. Now, there are many people who would say that when it comes to health in general, whether we're talking about children or adults, discipline and being overweight or not being overweight and obese go hand in hand. And again, we do have a massive cultural problem. And why I really want to keep hammering home this point. I love the United States. I'm a proud naturalized citizen. I want this country to succeed. But the reality is, and all you have to do is look at history, look at the rise and fall of any empire. This is a standard, predictable route that any society goes down when it becomes too comfortable. Happened to the Romans, happened to many different empires. People become lazy. People become bigger. Okay, let's use a term. They become fatter, and then they fall behind, and then they get taken over by another country. And I'm going to keep on providing this message because I really don't think that the people at the top understand how this one issue, the fall off a cliff of American health in adults and children. Children is even more concerning because all these children in 10, 20 years are going to be even sicker and more dependent on medications. This is going to lead potentially, and I hope I'm wrong, to the downfall of the country. You can't have a productive country if over 50% of the people are obese, if large numbers of them have type 2 diabetes and other inflammatory disorders. The country can't function. And the answer is not to start injecting people with more injections. That's just so utterly ludicrous. We need root and branch reform. We need a complete overhaul and a realization that our culture is promoting all of the wrong habits. It's promoting dependency, and ultimately it's going to lead to an economic collapse. So in terms of these viral videos that are going around, I find them hilarious on some levels. I think you would be hard pressed to not find them funny because there's so much truth to them. And I'm glad. In a way, I thank China for hammering home this point, because these types of videos obviously would be deemed to be politically incorrect in the United States. In fact, it's so interesting because the first video that I talked about a few days ago, this was something which is wildly popular online. And I was looking at overseas newspapers, and they were saying very clearly, it was in their headline, that these videos were mocking overweight, unhealthy Americans. They use the term overweight. But then I looked at the United States newspapers who said that these videos were being passed around of Americans working in factories. They didn't even notice the fact that China was really poking and mocking the health of the United States. Think about that. And that's our big problem. The United States mainstream media, many members of the establishment don't even understand that they should absolutely be talking about obesity. They should be talking about metabolic health, because if you don't talk about it, then things will never be solved. So as for the United States newspapers that I saw talking about these videos, they just said, oh, Chinese videos, whether they're, by the way, these videos are generated by AI, that's of no consequence, but they simply focused on the fact that the Chinese were making fun of Americans looking depressed in factories. They didn't even talk about the weight issue or the metabolic health issue. And that's our big problem right now. But the truth is always the truth. You can't hide from this. Eventually, things are going to reach a reckoning. And I hope, for the sake of the United States, that this doesn't happen too late. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. I wanted to give you an update, and I wanted to share with you more videos, or at least one example of the many videos that are being passed around online. And many, many countries overseas look at the United States health situation with absolute horror. And it's about time more Americans did as well and stepped up, started taking more personal responsibility, and acknowledged that nobody is coming to save you. If you carry on down this path, your health is going to keep getting worse, both your physical and your mental health. You are the only person who is going to rescue yourself. And my message, as always, for everybody out there, strive to step away from this absolutely toxic culture we're in. Eat real food. Stay well hydrated. Understand that many of the authorities still don't have your health and well-being at heart. Even though we've had a change of government, many of the people at the top are still the same, especially the physicians who are not focused on metabolic health. Learn to manage stress in your life. Sleep enough every night. Be in good company. Get outdoors. This is all common sense. It's not rocket science. And ultimately, if your health is elevated to the next level, then you will be very thankful indeed. There's no looking back. If you're somebody who needs to take steps to improve your metabolic health, to lose weight, get started now. Do not rely on the medical industrial complex. Do not rely on pills and injections. Go the natural route. You will be a lot better for it. Thanks, everyone. Again, feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do check the links in the description down below for our natural supplement store, my uniquely formulated natural supplements. If you're in the United States or North America, it's ohiwellness.com. If you're in the UK or Europe, ohiwellness.co. Also, in the links down below, my website and all the other work I do. Hit the like button if you like this video, the subscribe button for more similar videos in the future, and do share this video with anyone else who may benefit. Have a great weekend, and we will speak again very soon.